Me too.
Good. You're on the right side.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All except the dumb adapters.
Good. Somebody said just leaving work. Who was that?
Yeah.
Oh, was that Pete?
That's
No.
Pete.
I just rolled into town myself. We were in Brown County for 2 days.
Oh my gosh. Linda just got into
Brown
town.
County State.
Everybody just got into
Just
town.
got-
We were out of town this
Were you?
weekend. too.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nashville. Yeah,
That's a
just
cute
got
little
out of the
town.
brown truck. Oh, well, I let my dog out.
You still waiting on a couple?
Didn't you got a couple more coming or so?
Pete's on his way. He just
Okay.
left work about 10 minutes ago. He's
Okay.
downtown, so. Glenda just got in.
Yeah. No,
There she
what?
is.
Who's where? Eyeballs and brains in here.
Yes, I'm
Welcome
here.
back.
Oh, it is, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is nice. We stayed at Cape Martin Lounge.
I'm opening it. What's in the backside?
Hi, you.
Hello. What's up?
Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, nice seeing you too.
Is there memory in there, Jane, to videotape it?
I don't know, I went ahead and just turned it on because you were starting to tell some different things, so we'll find out. We'll find out.
Depends on how long we're here, right?
She took me to this cool little store
Yeah.
in Dallas.
I think we got 2 hours and 30 minutes.
All right.
Pete,
Depends on how many questions you ask, whether that'll be enough.
Pete just said you don't need to wait for him to start. I'm pretty sure he can catch up like really quick.
Yeah. You can find out bits almost all
One of
day.
the guys who's coming tonight is, runs all the AV equipment down at the Grand Wayne Center. So he's pretty familiar with all this stuff.
Yeah, we probably actually work with him.
Pete Proant, yeah, good guy.
Our live guys do a lot. of them.
Yeah, yeah, so he may know your team or whatever.
Yeah, he probably does.
He helped us out because our team are definitely not tech people.
Yeah.
So whenever we're like, oh, we call Pete and Pete. does it.
Cool.
So he wanted to get familiar, at least see what's, the
Gotcha.
scope of the new stuff is.
Gotcha.
here.
Yeah,
That way,
he'll be able-
if we get stuck, he should be able to help us out.
Yeah.
But he said go ahead and start without him. He's on his way, he got delayed, he'll be here shortly.
Awesome.
Well, he just didn't have to go on.
Okay. All right, well, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming tonight and spending some time out here. I'm excited to get to show this to you and hope you guys are excited to use it. I love helping organizations use tech to, get to fulfill the mission that they have.
Well, my name's Stephen, by the way.
Stephen?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
So Stephen is the minister for Interlight Ministries.
Gotcha.
We share
rent
space with
here
them.
and we do video conferences for our group with their equipment
Awesome.
and interface with our Mac. So
Okay.
um,
Great. So as long as you have an HDMI output, you're
We do.
good for that.
we do.
So,
So that should be easy.
yep,
Yeah.
easy,
Good.
piece of cake.
And this is Jane Rackley. This is my wife. She's on our video team.
And we
for-
Yeah, we
met.
met. We met.
I
Yep.
didn't
And
properly
Diane
introduce
Small.
myself, I just started firing questions. I was kind of in charge of this, that's why I was like, yeah, tell me what's up.
Gotcha.
So she served for a long time as our board president, but she was the project manager
For the whole
this.
thing.
She's still board
For the
president of
whole-
Wybrand.
And now that that's about to be done, she's moving into AV, and this is
Cool.
Trying to
Desiree.
spread the love so
Cool.
we don't
We
get.
know Desiree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is Diane.
Diane.
I feel like we're the Mouseketeer, you know how
Yeah,
they do.
yeah.
This is so.
Yes.
I am Dave, so.
Thank you all for being here. I appreciate
Thank you,
it.
we appreciate it.
Yeah, this is I was just saying, this is the fun part for me because I love, we can put in the coolest tech in the world, but if you don't know how to use it, then it's kind of pointless. So. Good.
The screen.
Good.
I like it. It's sharp up there. I like it.
Now, this is just showing you some stuff, but to show you the crispness of it and stuff. But again, we went
See,
with,
even if they're back here, yeah, it's still really nice and crisp.
so
Yeah.
hopefully that'll work well for you.
Mhm.
As
Bars are gonna disappear in people's minds.
yes, you won't see them after a week or two, right?
I know.
So
Somebody came in the other day and said, so when are we taking those down? And I said,
When you want the building to
I
collapse.
said, yeah, when we tear the building down.
Unless we all start sitting on the floor.
Glenda never got to see our old conference center, but there were two pillars. It was a large semicircular room, like this size, but it had 2 pillars in it, and they were both structural pillars, like, well,
Yeah.
you gotta deal with it, that's just
We
where
run
it
into
is.
that stuff all the time. You just gotta make compromises
Yeah.
and do the best you can.
Okay,
So that piece of it, the video piece, honestly, is here's your remote for the projector to turn it on and off, and you have an HDMI input, any PC, laptop with an HDMI input.
What's the range, like, how close do you need to be to the projector to do that?
Well, if it's not in the way.
There's a lot of stuff between here and
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I could actually get it every once in a while.
Okay, you bounce it off
If
something?
not, you can walk up to it.
Okay.
It's more about the lights being in the way than it'll go that far. easily.
Right, but there's obstruction between, yeah.
So,
nice.
Yep. All right, so what we're gonna spend most of our time with is this stuff, right? The audio stuff.
Do you
And-
mind if I take a picture of this?
Absolutely not. Do whatever you want. Come on in. And you'll get closer if you want. We do have. This is your digital mixer.
Higher tech than ours.
Down below here, we have a rack that has some of your old equipment and some of your new equipment in it. Okay. Everything startup and shutdown procedure, right, is really difficult. It looks like this. See this power button?
That's all.
That's it. That's all the audio stuff.
Everything.
Yep.
So it's all connected already, it's just power on, power off?
Yep. There's
Okay.
power on.
Got it.
Try to make that
Cool.
as simple as possible.
That's easy.
Yeah, because
Simple is really, we appreciate simple. Okay.
So feel free to, you guys can label stuff however you want when we're done here, but that's it for turn on, shutdown. One knob or one switch. We left your CD player in there /DVD. Now the video is not hooked up to that. If it's got an HDMI output, you could hook that HDMI to the back of that. But
Okay.
the audio is hooked up. That's what I was just playing with the CD that was in there.
So the audio is hooked up to the soundboard.
Yes.
Awesome.
So you can play CDs. I wasn't sure what this Gemini was. I think you guys had it before. I put it back in. It is routed so that you can play from it and record to it. So
Stephen, do you know? Do you?
Which one?
So
The Gemini, underneath the DVD player.
it looks like an SD recorder and or playback.
Is that what we were recording on?
Yes.
I think that was your
Or,
recorder,
or a little baby
Yes.
disc. Yeah.
Yes, to burn the disc.
So when we were taking them off of there and putting them on the website.
Oh, okay.
So it's there if you want it. If not, you can just take the screws out, unhook the cables, and take it out if you don't want it. I did put your 4-channel microphone back in there, wireless mics back in there, but I did check the frequencies, and they are in the 600 megahertz range, which the FCC is requiring that you stop using by October of 2020.
Really?
And we know that we need new ones anyway, so.
So, yeah, I put them back in there for now. Actually, the way it's worded, and you can go on the fcc.gov website and look up wireless microphones. The way it's worded is you must stop transmitting on the 600 megahertz range by October 2020. That is because they sold it to wireless cellular companies to use for more bandwidth. If there is somebody here in the area though that's using that 600 megahertz bandwidth before
You're
October
gonna
20,
have to stop
then
before.
you have to stop before.
Okay.
Now, I tell you that, nobody's coming to check you out. okay?
Right.
But I'm just letting you know.
We
Okay,
we need to know.
Well, and that may be why we picked up, remember that one Sunday we picked up
You might.
a Mexican radio station.
What?
Yeah, remember that? We could hear it, you could hear it, it was really low.
So
But you
what-
could hear all of us going, what is that?
What are they transmitting on now, the new wireless? You know?
The new one I got you is in the 500 megahertz range.
Okay.
With, wireless companies can't sell any in the 600 anymore.
Okay.
So the new one is in, so you have one new one,
So we did order, Stephen, we did get one new wireless.
one
regular
new
mic.
handheld.
Yeah,
A
one
new-
new handheld.
Okay, okay.
So we have a handheld.
Yes, and that one's good,
Nice.
really good frequencies.
Okay.
Perfect.
The last thing in the rack is just the amplifier for the main speakers. And so that's pretty much what's in the main rack. Shouldn't be anything that you have to touch on a regular basis unless you're using the CD player or.
So if we record from that old recorder, is it gonna be able to pick up the audio? Is the audio?
The way I have it set up right now, it's actually just a feed from the main speaker.
Okay,
So
perfect.
anything that goes through the main speaker.
Speaker is gonna go
will
through
get
that,
recorded.
okay. Awesome.
So the question was, is that what she was talking about? We record through that?
Yes.
Maybe I'll start with this.
You can also, I mean, we can hook it up, you can record on a laptop or anything too. There's lots of different ways to record, but since you already have that, I'll stuck it back in.
This is Pete from,
Pete.
he's the one who's telling me from the, works with the Grand Wayne Center. You said you
Yes.
folks.
You probably work with our
sometimes
live.
live guys.
Yeah, I do, yep, definitely.
Jay-Z and,
Uh-huh.
yep,
I
okay.
just talked to him this week,
Oh, yeah? Good.
7 days.
I like working with you, so that's good.
Oh, nice.
Any questions on the rack part? That's
Yeah,
kind
just
of-
wanted to make sure I got it right. The old CD DVD player,
Uh-huh.
that unit, now the audio goes through the board,
Mhm.
but the video doesn't.
Right.
So if they're, okay, got it.
All right, well then let's spend our time here because this is the fun part. This is the Behringer X32, it's the compact version, and I got that for you because I knew you were limited in space here, and you weren't doing a ton of inputs all at one time. So kind of what we have here is, this is the control center for everything. You've got two main speakers that are high quality Martin Audio 12-inch two-way speakers, and we're going to reuse your powered floor monitors. There is what we call a digital snake, which is the box up there on the front, that has inputs and outputs in it that you can plug into, and it's connected to this all through one Cat5 cable. So I think
So
that...
is that what they'll plug their guitars?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Microphones,
box.
guitars, whatever you want to plug in there, you plug in, and it goes one Cat5 cable back to this. Now this board will do 32 channels. We have some of them used up locally here with the wireless mics, and then you can do 8 more, I believe, on that box up there. So you have ways to plug in. That's what I have 16 on the back.
Yes.
16 here and 8 up front. We can add more stage boxes if you ever get to the place where you need more things on stage,
Okay.
but from what you told
Don't
me,
tell that to the musician. Sorry.
Linda was telling me that was enough for right now, so we're gonna start with that, and you can always add later, right? So, if you want to get a little closer, let's take a look at the board. Think of this basically as a computer with a bunch of controls. If you've run analog sound before, the board you were running before was an analog board, you're used to one knob and one button doing one function.
There, and I'll stand here.
Digital world is not like that. Digital world is this fader, this button, this knob can do multiple things. So in the old world, if you wanted to adjust something in the analog world, you would just grab that knob and adjust it. In digital world, you have to select what you want to adjust and then adjust it. You will forget this, and you will start adjusting something, thinking you're adjusting what you want. Because you thought in your mind, this is what I'm adjusting, but you didn't tell the board that that's what you wanted to adjust.
Show us as an example.
Okay, so these are your select buttons for the different channels. So this is me selecting channel 1. That means what is on the screen here and what these controls that I'll go through in a little bit are all controlling is everything pertaining to channel 1.
Okay.
All right, so if you're running different wireless mics and you go, oh, I want to change the EQ on this wireless mic, but I haven't selected it first, and you're still on this one, you start messing with the EQ, you're changing this one, you're not changing this one.
Gotcha.
That make sense?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And then this display will change based on which you select there. It's gonna,
Correct.
the display is gonna show whatever you've selected.
And the double check is right up here in the left corner. You can see this little box here shows you what you're
Oh,
selecting.
okay.
So these could be a mic, a guitar.
Mhm. Yeah, they can be anything, whatever you got plugged into them. this front layer, let me kind of start down here and I'll go
Okay.
through what each of the things are. Because right now it looks like a lot of stuff. It's actually a lot of repetition, okay? So once you kind of learn one area, there's just multiples of it. Let's look at these 8 faders. This section right here. If you kind of look to, another thing on this board that's nice is, you see how there's sections here that are outlined in gray? At the bottom of each one is a view button. You see that? Every gray area. That means if I press that, you're going to see this section in the screen. Okay? So that's true of anything here. But let's start here with these 8. So you got 8 input channels here. Remember I said it'll take 32 inputs, but there's only 8 faders coming in. So we get to the other 24 through different layers. Okay, so this is channel 1 through 8. If I hit this button, I get channel 9 through 16. If I hit this button, I get 17 through 21. If I hit this button, I get 25 through 32. So all 32 channels are in these. This is another thing that you got to remember is to select, because right now you may be able to have everything just on the front layer if you don't have a lot of inputs, but if you start spilling over, actually if you plug anything into there, you will have to go to this second layer, because this board switches from local inputs to the stage box in groups of 8. So
And these XLRs are what are these?
they go to the wireless, down below.
Gotcha.
So 32 channels on these first 4 layers. They're all the same except that they're different channels. They operate all the same, but there's 32 different ones, okay? The next section down, next layer, we call these layers, is your auxiliary inputs and USB. Right now I've got auxiliary 1, I've got these labeled, I have them labeled as iPod left or right. It's basically this input right here where you can plug your phone or an MP3 player or whatever you want into it. Actually, just let me show you. Oops. Of course, I have the Apple phone that doesn't have the 1/8 because they were so smart and took that away. Now, because these are left-right and you are running stereo here, I've actually linked these. So, whoops, I gotta turn that on. So the left and right, don't try to move these like this. You'll actually feel them fighting each other. These are motorized. So whenever you have left and right ones, you can just move them with one of them. But basically, this is just whatever comes in on this cord. You can adjust.
And your mains, this is your main.
This is always your main. This is the only fader on the whole board that always stays with this one thing. It's the master volume, okay? That's all it does. Okay? So, yeah, if you want to listen a little bit to it. You got plenty of volume. And
You're not gonna tell our musicians.
there's plenty more after that, too. I actually have the amps on about half, so you got plenty of headroom. The next two, aux 3 and 4, are your CD player. So if you press play, and I think there's a CD in there. Did I press play? It's loading.
That's gonna be so nice before service, to have some soft music.
Okay. Now, I have your Gemini, because it can play back too. I have it hooked into this 5 and 6. I don't have any way to try it, but it should work if you're playing music off of it.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever played music off
Okay.
of it. Like I said, it was simply just to record the
That's fine.
lessons.
And then you have USB left and right. Turn this off here. There's a USB port at the top here. You can actually bring a flash drive with WAV or MP3 files on it. If you stuck it in here, you could hit this, and it looks like this little player. You would see all of your track songs there. You know, you could just hit play here, and you control the volume with these two faders. It just plays directly from your flash drive.
Cool.
Nice.
The other thing to use, this is why I would probably not mess with the Gemini, even though I put it in there. This also will automatically do, or not automatically, but you can record to it 2-track stereo off the main fader. So if you wanted to record, you just
way more sense.
put a stick
That'll
in
be a lot
there,
easier for you guys.
Yeah.
and then you hit record,
Yeah.
and it'll just record whatever's coming out of the main speakers. Easy, piece of cake. While we're here real quick, I'll come back to the rest of this in a second, but while we're here, this is not a touch screen. Sometimes I keep doing this because some of the other mixers I use do it. These knobs down here are controlling whatever's in these boxes, and they are turn and push, okay? So they all do, you can rotate and push them.
And then
So.
it locks it.
No, well, it depends on what's down here. These will be different depending on what screen you're on. So if I had a USB stick in here and I wanted to play this, I would use this one to turn to scroll down to the one that I wanted. and It would highlight it,
And then you would,
and then this one says play, so I'd hit that, and it
Okay.
would start playing.
okay.
So they're just soft keys, basically. They're ways to manipulate whatever screen is up at the time. Okay, so let me come back here. So we got the first 32 channels, right? Your auxiliary inputs, which are kind of your music stuff that you got coming in. The next layer are your effects returns. I'm going to try to keep this simple and tell you don't mess with those. There are 4 effects engines inside this board that will allow you to do reverb, delays, compressors, all kinds of stuff. These are what we call the returns for them, which is kind of controlling how much of that effect goes to your main master mix. That would probably be a part 2 training of, you know, when you get familiar with the board.
There's a stick.
Aha. See if it's got anything in it. Is that a blank one?
No, it's got all kinds of stuff on it. My life is on that disc now.
There you go.
There it is. Oh yeah, your taxes.
Yeah,
Your life is on.
Great.
there should be a music file on there.
There is a music folder.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what. Oops. I don't know.
Just pick something.
Maybe it's got to wait here a second. Are they?
Are they waiver MP3 or it could be?
They should be WAV
Yeah,
MP3
for something
files.
else.
So I thought, you said you gotta come back over here and find out.
Well, I should see the list of songs.
So if you pick a song there and then you push that, you should hear it.
Yes.
And it just goes through your master volume, it doesn't have to do anything with
No,
it.
it goes to this USB on
Okay.
the aux.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm wondering if maybe it is only waves. If these are
Ah.
MP3. Well,
Those are
wait a
probably,
second.
they are CDs that were ripped.
Your iTunes though would not be MP3s.
No, they're
They're different.
Uh-uh.
They're AAC or whatever.
Is it because these are down or no?
No, it's just not reading them. That is maybe something I have to look up.
I was just curious.
It
So how
may
would
just be
we?
waves files.
Okay, so if we were gonna record though, what would it look like? What would
Oh,
they do?
if you just record, you just stick it in.
Then it'll record from
What's
there.
the access button mean?
But
That
if you
means
don't
it's
use it,
accessing,
playing off of
that's not a button, it's just a light that
Okay.
goes on
So
when
that
it's
sounds
talking.
like pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I just push that, you can, create a folder or whatever, get to the folder you want to put it in, and then it's simply record, and it's recording what's coming through the main.
That's really awesome.
That is really.
That's gonna be way.
That's gonna be way simpler than the Gemini thing.
And what
So it
what
just-
format does
We
it
sell the
record in?
Gemini.
Do you know?
I think it's WAV.
Wave,
file.
okay.
So it just made this weird looking long 2019 1028 at 6:57 PM file,
Wow, okay.
which we can erase.
I'll delete when I go home.
But it's
Okay.
that easy, yes.
Cool.
Okay.
Do they have to eject or do anything special to it?
No,
to
as
pay
long
it?
as this access light is not going, if it's flickering, that means it's talking to it.
Okay.
But if it's out, you can just pull it
Okay,
out.
perfect. Let me have my life back, thank you.
So effects returns, let's not mess with for now. Mixed buses. This has 16 mixed buses, and mixed buses are just collection points for for different inputs, okay? We're gonna use the first two for your two floor monitors, monitor 1 and monitor 2. So monitor 1 is in bus 1, monitor 2 is in bus 2. The others right now, I don't think you have a lot of use for, but there's lots of room for expansion later on. We'll talk about monitors here in a second. Just know that the first two will be used for that. You can only see the first 8 here, so you have to go down here to bus 9 through 16 to see the other 8. And you can see the last 4 are dedicated to those same internal 4 effects engines that I talked about. So these are actually the sends that are sending audio to the effects that are in here. And then it comes out of the effects to these returns, and these returns define how much of it goes to the main mix. That's why it's a little complicated. For right now, I would just leave them alone. Any of the effects stuff, unless you want to, I mean, I could show you if you really want to know, but
I'll pay you to come back.
okay.
Training part 2.
It really is tonight, my goal usually in the first training is to get you familiar enough with it that you feel like you can goof around with it and try stuff and not be afraid of it. And then let you use it for 3 to 6 months. And then once you're familiar with it, then I can come back and go, okay, now you know where stuff is.
Once we have enough disasters, we call
Right.
you back and say, now what?
Now what?
Now we messed up the board, now.
Well, here's the great thing, now that you brought that up, here's the great thing about this board. Digital World, again, is great because you can save everything. So I will show you this if you promise not to mess it up. This area here is what we call the scenes area. A scene saves every setting on the board, okay, everything. If I hit that view, you can see that I can save 99 scenes in here. I have stored one in the last scene location called CSD default. Actually, what I'm gonna do real quick is, because I think I loaded this after I did that, I'm gonna save this one more time. So basically that is saving everything in the board just like it is now. I put it down there so that hopefully as you guys use stuff, you'll start saving scenes up here and forget that that one's all the way at the bottom. So that if you ever get something so messed up that you go, I don't even know what happened.
Start over.
Just go down to 99, load that last scene.
It's like the reboot.
Exactly. Okay? Now, you'll lose whatever you've done since then, but at least it gives you a base point to go back to if you have to have it. While we're here, I'll just show you, if you wanted to create your own scene, a lot of times what people do is they'll come in and go, hey, I just want to mess around, so I'm just going to create a scene, save it, with my name, and then I can mess around with stuff and save it, and I can always go back and load that bottom scene again to get to it, and I haven't messed anybody else up.
So, I know it's a dumb question, what is a scene?
A scene is just a file that it creates with all the settings of the board.
So like, if we're like ready to go and that's what we got, then that's a scene, and we can
Yes.
save it.
Think in theater world, they name it a scene because sometimes they get used in theater world where from scene to scene, you have different actors or actresses coming out with different wireless mic setups and stuff. And they could actually hit a button and it would totally reconfigure itself.
Gotcha.
So like,
No, you're fine.
I can make a bunch of adjustments here, blah, blah, blah.
I want to be able to see that screen now.
And And, you know, and then you go, oh my gosh, something got messed up. Well, this scene, if I load it, if I highlight it and I go,